So our next goal is to have actual separate chat rooms. We discovered yesterday we can sort of simulate that by changing in our chat component. The chat component, because that's where we do base.sync state, which is what syncs our state with Firebase. If we just change the endpoint, like from general messages to random messages, then we get a different set of messages. So that's what we need to change. We need to change what endpoint in Firebase we're syncing with. So that's what we will try to do. So that means probably we need to make clicking these links in the sidebar change something in state somewhere. So where would that state have to live? Main, right? Because it would have to be accessible both in the sidebar and in chat. So it would have to be at least as high up in the chain as main. So probably we're going to have something in main that keeps track of what room we're in. We'll pass that in as a prop to chat and use it in sync state. So that's what we know. That's what we know we're trying to do. We'll probably run into some hiccups along the way, but that's where we should start. So we want main to have some state. It doesn't have any state right now, but it's already a class at least. So all we have to do is initialize state. We can use a property initializer for that. We don't have to use the constructor. And I will just keep track of the current room. I'll just call it room. And I'll go ahead and make room an object. Instead of just like the room name, because we've got things like, here's the room name and the room description. So it seems like it makes sense for room to be an object. Everybody understand that decision? So a name and description at the very least. So we can just hard code it as name, general, description, whatever, it doesn't matter. Something like announcements in general chat is fine. Rip straight out of Slack. So our chat component is going to need to know what the current room is. So I will just pass in an additional prop here. I'll go ahead and start putting this on multiple lines. So I'll pass in a prop called room, and it'll be this .state.room. So chat is also a class, so I don't need to pass it in the arguments list or anything. So what do we want to do with that inside the chat component? A bit probably eventually. We could start by just updating the heading here and this announcement. That seems simple enough. So in our render function here, we have chat header. That's the gray bar here. That uses the room information, right? So we could pass the room along there. And so here, how would I access room from inside chat? This.props.room, right? It's this.state.room in main. It's this.props.room in chat. And then chat header.js would receive that as a prop. It is a stateless functional component. So it'll receive props as an argument. So we could use our destructuring here to get the room out. Curly braces, room. And then the H2 here has hash general. So I will just instead say hash curly brace room.name. And here I just have announcements in general chat hard-coded in. So I can just replace that with room.description. And naturally, the example I hard-coded in there is the same as what's already there. So Let me just change that real quick. In main, I'll just say name equals S2 morning. Yeah. Chatter about the actual class. There we go. Now this says S2 morning, chatter about the actual class. So that's a pretty small thing. Just to get some small commits along the way, I'll say store room in state and show it in chat header. And then we could do it here too. So this announcement is actually in message list. So get out of chat header. So we're already in chat here. Here's message list. So I could start passing it in there. By the time I get to 2 props, I usually start putting these things on multiple lines. So I want to pass along room equals this dot props dot room. So now message list can get to that. Message list is already getting props in here. The only other prop we're using so far is messages. If we want to destructure it, that's the other thing we'd have to do. So destructure, we'll do messages and room. So I'll change props.messages to just messages. And where I have general here in the H3, I will change that to hash and then room.name. And then this is the very beginning of the room.name room. S2 morning, this is the very beginning of the S2 morning room. Okay. Show the room name in the room announcement. But we haven't done anything to change how it syncs.